Voices of English, a Libyan-made podcast spotlighting people who are unique and can speak confident English. Each episode brings a new guest, a real conversation, and a topic worth your time. The goal is simple: give English lovers and learners a space to listen, improve, and enjoy authentic, engaging discussions.
Hi everyone and welcome to Voices of English. I'm your host Nidal Al-Hassan and this is the show where we dive into real stories, honest conversations and inspiring experiences. In this episode we are diving into the world of literature, not just as something we read but as something we live. In a world full of Netflix and TikTok, from imagining literature as a guest at a party to choosing the authors we would buy to a dinner, this conversation explores how stories influence who we are, how we love, and how we see the world. Let's dive in. Today we have a very interesting guest, Mr. Ala Algadi. Hi, how are you, Ala?
How are you?
I'm pretty good, thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. Thanks for hosting me here.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. Ala, before we start talking about literature, can you tell us about yourself?
I am Ala Algadi. I am an assistant professor in English literature at the Department of the English Language, Faculty of Arts, Missouri University. You can say I am a poet, an emerging poet, composing poetry since 2009. And, I consider it, because poetry, when you value poetry, you become that person who has two eyes, one eye of logic, one eye of purity. That's why it's my passion. It runs in my veins.
Ala, let's start broad. Literature isn't just art, right? It's a mirror. How do you think it helps us handle the challenges of daily life?
Starting from the saying that literature is an art, we live literature every day because, literature, what makes literature interesting than the other fields, because it tackles, it solves the significant problems that we face every day. That's why it's a way of facing the bitter reality,
Mm-hmm.
That's why.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it goes beyond. Literature is, of course, it's usually written in an extraordinary language. Also, as I said before, it tackles our daily life problems, especially the issues concerned with our existence, the conflict between good and bad, also beauty and ugliness. That's why it's something we live it every day.
Ala, let's take one step back. Every reader has a turning point. When did you first realize literature wasn't just something you studied in school, but it's more like something you lived? Do you remember a moment or a book that changed everything?
Yeah, just such a resounding question, Nidal. I can vividly remember the page that was in our reading book. It was in the secondary school, the second year, when I first glimpsed the poem To Autumn. It was just, included in the book, To Autumn, written by the English romantic poet John Keats. At that time, I loved the idea of having something like, for example, it's my favorite season, by the way, autumn, that we are living now, because I was born in the 12th of October. Also, the poet he was born in 31st of October. I love the idea of having a friend like this, autumn, to have autumn this season, although people they consider it as a melancholic season, but I was enthralled by the idea of Keats. How does he personalize autumn to be a friend? So that's why, since that moment, I started being curious about poetry, especially romantic poetry, and it was, the first light beam of following this path, which is writing poetry.
Ala, let's move on to another question. Many young people say they don't have time for books anymore. So, for someone in their 20s or 30s who feels too busy for literature, what's your best argument that reading can still change their lives today?
Of course, reading, the mining tool of being a writer, because a good reader, can definitely makes a good writer. In my opinion, it is something about ridiculousness, or let's say thinking about the world in a superficial way, or a superficial perspective. They elude themselves that they don't have time for literature, or they are busy. They don't have time to to bother themselves with such idea things, But in fact, it's about it's about superficiality. They like taking things not seriously. That's why. And also, it let's say it lets them think about the bitter reality, or let's say the significant matters in our daily life. They are just busy with the social media apps.
Absolutely. This is a valid point, and this drives us to a very important issue, especially with the younger generations.
Yeah.
So, in a world of endless, streaming and scrolling, TikTok, Instagram, etc., where does literature stand? Is it competition or something completely unique?
Now I'm talking about the significant content of those apps, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, etc. I consider it, starting from the point that literature is an art. Those apps, they were spin-off of a literature, because they take the origins of that art and they shape it in a way that's it goes with the nowadays necessities and so on. But I consider literature is the godfather of such apps. I'm talking about the good content of those apps, because now we are living in a world full of degeneration and ridiculousness, so on. That's why. Yeah.
I have another question, Ala. So, if literature were a person at a party or a social gathering, what kind of personality would it have? The quiet, mysterious guest, or the one telling all the stories? What do you think?
Wow. It's a mind-steering question. In my opinion, literature at a party would be the quiet spirit who never forces the room to notice them. but by the end of the night, everyone leaves with something unforgettable, vividly remembered. It can be a line, poem, or story echoing in their minds.
Here is a fun one. So, Ala, imagine a dinner table with 3 authors or poets. Who gets the invitation and what do you ask them?
First one I would like to invite, okay, John Keats, then Ernest Hemingway, okay, that was one who was accused of being a spy, during the
Really?
yeah, the Spanish Civil War, yeah, and the last one would be Lawrence Darrell. Yeah, I'm not a chauvinist, None of them they are, all of them they are males, That's why. I would ask John Keats about what made you think of writing a will, bequeathing your friends to bury him under a gravestone bearing no name. I don't know. I would ask him if you were have some premonitions about being digged out of your grave or something else. That's his epitaph that was famous. That says that here lies one whose name was written in water. About on Ernest Hemingway, I would ask him. Ernest Hemingway. I would ask him about. Something I liked about his masterpiece, the novel Farewell to Arms. And you can notice that he trivialized the horrors of war, and at the same time he enjoyed being enlisted in the American army during the First World War. The last one with Lawrence Darrell, I like this author a lot. He's a British author. I would ask him, how could you manage mentioning all those pieces of information in your novel, Little Lemons of Cyprus? You can learn lots of things about geography, history, etymology, about art, music, cuisine, many things, This is something, genius,
Thank you so much, Ala, for this deep dive through literature. Well, dear listeners, that's a wrap for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Until we see you again, take care.